All right, let's get started. Hi, I'm Rachel Baker, founder of Tejo.ca. We provide AI services to cosmetic companies to help them reduce their cost of acquiring a customer and increase the lifetime value of their customers. If you haven't already joined our mailing list, I strongly suggest you do so you can get notified of events like this. And now I'd like to introduce Brad Levin, VP of Sales for Packaging Trends. And he's going to talk to us today about sustainable packaging. But before we start, if you have any questions, please hold them for the end or write them in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, thank you so much, Brad, for doing this with us.
Sure. Okay. Imagine, if you will, growing up in the 1940s and 50s in a very segregated Louisville, Kentucky, as a young Black child. Imagine at 7 years old, your bike is stolen from you, and it was your only way of getting around town and doing the things that gave you a little bit of freedom and felt like a good childhood. You go to a cop and you say, tell him that somebody stole my bike. And the cop responds to him, well, I guess you better learn how to fight. So he took that advice to heart and became Olympic champion in 1964. He became world champion shortly after. And in 1974, Harvard University asked him to give the commencement speech at their graduation. Now, imagine that, a kid from Louisville, Kentucky from the 40s and 50s being asked to Harvard, of all places, could not be further from what he grew up in. So he gave this great presentation, and he stopped to a great round of applause, and the audience just started chanting, give us a quote, give us a quote. And he sat there quiet for a minute, looked at the audience, said, me, we, and that was it. Went on to become the shortest poem ever on record. Now, you may be asking yourself or asking me, what does this have to do with sustainability? Well, sustainability is a we thing. It's not a me thing. So my name is Brad Levin. I am, as she said, VP of Sales at Packaging Trends. I've been in packaging for about 15 years. I work across a wide array of industries, from cosmetics, personal care, food, beverage, CBD, and across a lot of different substrates of packaging, everything from corrugated to clear packaging, rigid, folding cartons. I kind of say that, if you have a physical product, you need some sort of box or package, and I can provide that for you. So what is sustainability? Sustainability really focuses on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So if you think about that just for a second, it's doing our job and our responsibility to each kind of take small steps to make sure that there's enough left, of this world for our future generations. A while back when I started getting into sustainability, I started researching it a little bit more, and I found 3 quotes that really kind of stuck to me. And the first one is, the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that somebody else will save it. So obviously that means, this is up to us at this point. A lot of damage has been done. Don't know that we can necessarily reverse it all, but it's up to us to take that responsibility. And then we are living on this planet as if we had another to go to. Again, pretty much the same concept as all these are. And the last one, this one really stuck with me, and it really, to this day, really sticks with me. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children. So when you look at it in that perspective, I think it's a kind of a motivating quote for us to do as much as we can to help the situation. So how do we achieve sustainability? It really starts with questions from within the company. What message is it that you want to promote? What are your core principles? How does your product fit into these answers? And then how do you take sustainability and incorporate it into that mission and that message that you're trying to portray to the marketplace? How do we implement it? It really comes from the top. We have to hire people that have a shared vision. And then you market it. I think it is a really great marketing tool. And I know it's a little bit of a mercenary, perspective of it, but the more people that are buying a sustainable product means there's more sustainable products out into the marketplace. So, it can help you grow your company as well. But you have to put together a reasonable plan. You can't think that you're just going to flip a switch and you're going to be 100% sustainable. You have to be able to accept the fact that it might be baby steps that you're taking, but at least you're taking steps. Because again, every step is a step in the right direction. And then you have to really make it easy for your customers. You can't really give them a package that, you have to break apart into 5 pieces, or a bottle that comes, with different types of material that you have to separate. You really have to make it as easy as possible for the consumer just to be able to take that product and put it into the right recycling. And then remember, especially as startups, that you can't be everything to everybody. You're never going to be able to satisfy everybody. So you have to do whatever it is you can do and just keep taking steps forward. So there are a few ways of being sustainable. First, if you're a cosmetic company, the ingredients, are they natural? How are they procured? Being able to trace it back through the supply line to make it, that entire process more sustainable. And then in production, there are a lot of machine efficiencies out there now that are using less energy. Solar power is a great, development that has been around for a while, but I've been seeing a lot more people kind of take advantage of it now. And once you make that investment, it actually becomes a cost saver for you as well. Materials are always key. Using, from corrugated perspective, paper is always, a pretty sustainable product. And it's also very traceable. You can trace it actually back to the forest that it came from. And that's true with a lot of different materials. Plastic, I'll get into a little bit more later, but being able to do use PCR plastic is a huge bonus. And then the other thing is to reduce material. Making it lighter, using less paper. And these things, while this actually in particular is a great way to also be saving money, because lighter materials, less materials can take up less room in trucks, can use less energy in transporting them. So these are things that you don't necessarily always think of, but there is a kind of trickle down effect with all these different ways of becoming sustainable. And kind of in the same notion, as much as you can, stay domestic. I work a lot with startups, and there was one in particular that I was working with that wanted to be 100% sustainable. And I showed her a bunch of things, but she couldn't afford it. And, again, that's one of the barriers right now to becoming more sustainable. So we went through this whole process for months, and she said, well, what about China? And I said, yeah, I can get this for you in China, but whatever sustainable benefit that you're providing by the package, you're canceling out just by shipping it over here. So while it might be cheaper there and maybe more affordable, it's not necessarily helping you in terms of the sustainability. And then there's certifications, like SFC, and that can help protect the forest and help protect or replenish the forest as well. And it goes back to that traceability. So as we were talking about paper and plastic, plastic has somewhat become a little bit of a curse word in the industry, but I don't necessarily think that it's fully warranted. I'm not going to read through all these, but I can send this out to you as well. But I'm not going to sit here also and say that plastic is not doing harm. But if you look at a comparison, it's not really what people always say it is. So the paper production actually emits 70% more air pollution in the production of plastic. And making paper bags actually results in 50 times more water pollutants than making plastic bags. Paper bags actually weigh more, which means that it can, in terms of transportation, can actually cost and have a larger emission footprint there. And this one I found pretty interesting was that a company found it could reduce its carbon footprint by up to 70% just by switching from paper and cardboard packaging to plastic, and that even recycling paper only halves the environmental impact that it has. So you see that there are ways of still being able to use plastic, and there in some cases I think it's actually a better option with the high PCR content now that is being available. I think that makes it a lot safer, a lot more sustainable of a product. Facts about plastic. Replacing plastic packaging in the US would mean adding 50 million tons more materials, leading to 50 million tons more waste. So just things to kind of keep in perspective. Again, this is another stat. Paper are the largest culprits when it comes to landfill, 26%. Plastics really only at 13%. So getting back into actual packaging. So packaging, what is it? It's really more than just a box. It's a really vital part of your brand. When I talk to startups, I always say, I know you have a lot to do, and packaging is probably the last thing on your mind, but it's really the first thing that people see about your brand. So make it count. In the same line, it really becomes your first line of marketing. It could be an enticement to buy it. It could attract people to it. And, it's what you want your brand to say, what your story is, and, how do you get that message out into the marketplace. And then there's some necessary aspects of it. It protects your product, and you really have to have it in order to deliver your product, either regardless if it's direct to consumer or, in retail. We start with primary packaging, and some sustainable options that are available here are, bamboo, glass is obviously recyclable. Again, there's the PCR content, the high PCR content involved, and more recently I've been seeing more hemp products out there. One of the things, so that as we talk about this, some of it can be very exciting stuff in terms of, wow, this is really a great product. But again, you have to keep in mind cost. And again, it's a battle that's going to be going on for a while until we can kind of go in more mass production and it becomes easier to produce, and we're able to bring those costs down. And again, it also depends on minimum order quantities. So sometimes that can really put the startups or the indie brands at a lot of the disadvantage, but there's still ways to work this into your product lines. Paper tubes have seen a resurgence over the last few years. I've been seeing a lot of them, and I think a lot of it has to do with the sustainability aspect of it. You have paper tubes, you have PCR and bamboo, all of which are very sustainable products. And for the most part, paper tubes in particular are kind of mono-material. So going back to that thing of making it easy for the consumer, once they're done, they can just toss that in the recycling bin, and they don't have to worry about it. So, and then, moving on to kind of more of the cosmetic end of things. This is, one of the biggest problems that we have, and I guess it's not really all in cosmetics, but I think of creams and lotions and those type of products when I talk about this, is that residual waste, that little bit that's still stuck in the tube or stuck in the jar that you can't get out. If it's too much, it makes that product or that packaging become unrecyclable. So what do you do? This goes about, again, making it easier for the customer. I also, on a personal level, think that, as a consumer, if you buy a package and you're only able to get, 3/4 of it out, or 9/8 of it out, that's a little bit annoying that you're paying for the full 10 ounces and only getting 8 ounces out. So but that being said, going back to making it easier, you can see on the right here the stats of, having to cut containers, or, washing them out, or, what have you. But there's some interesting solutions that have come up over the last couple of years that I think are very interesting, and provide a really great and still, aesthetically nice product. There's a company called Liquid Glide that I've spoken to a lot over the last couple of years, and they've really created an interesting product. And hats off to Colgate-Palmolive, because they were the first ones, I think, to really bring this into mass market, and actually ended up redoing all of their toothpaste packaging just for this product. It really is. It just is basically a liquid liner that kind of attaches itself to the side of the tube, and what it does is, when you're squeezing it out, the product just comes right out. So it's essentially eliminating any wasted material in there. So you're able to get full usage of your product and easily just throw it into the recycling, and not have to worry about the wasted product preventing it from being recycled. This is just another usage of it as well. You can use it in jars, but also these kind of tubes that you would use more for gels or cosmetics. Doesn't have to be just toothpaste. It can be pretty much anything that is in that type of a tube. The one part about this that I should let people know is that it has to be applied at filling. So there is an expense to it in terms of having to put adding a part to your machinery or your filling process in order for it to work. But I think over the long run, it probably pays for itself. And again, it's definitely an investment in the environment. Here's the new Colgate toothpaste tube that they designed using the Liquid Glide product. Along those same lines of eliminating mess, I think airless tubes have become a very popular product. This company, for the tube airless, I really love this idea that it has a button dispenser, and typically when you get to that end of the tube and you're squeezing and pushing with your thumbs and breaking your thumbs, and you still can't get that last piece out, well, this kind of eliminates that. These tubes can be made out of 100% PCR plastic, and as you can see, there's a bag in there, or a barrier in there, I should say, and what that does is actually help keeps your product fresh and safe from air getting to it. So it can really increase product shelf life by like 15 to 20%, and it's great for it allows you to be able to use more organic and natural ingredients because they'll still maintain their integrity. So yeah, it's very easy. That button is really just, you push it, it comes right out, you take it off, and it stops. It's very even dosing, not messy. It's really an interesting product. So we talk about airless pumps or tubes versus traditional pumps, and there's a really big difference here that I think people haven't really thought of, that going back to the wasted material or the wasted product within the product. A traditional pump has a dip tube, a pump body, a tank, a piston, has all these different pieces in it that can clog, and when it comes to recycling, you really need to take it apart, and there's uneven doses, and the product isn't really protected from air, which gives it less protection and kind of shortens the shelf life of it. When you look at an airless pump, there's that barrier in there that is protecting it. So again, it increases up to 15% of shelf life. And again, great for organic and natural products. It creates less waste, because if you think about a traditional pump that has a tube in it, that tube is not getting into the corners of any bottle, jar, or what have you. So you're leaving all of that material in there, which again will prevent recyclability. And these airless pumps they're very big in the cosmetic world now. I see a huge increase in them over the last few years, and you can dress them up to be kind of a luxurious packaging solution. And I think there's a this common misconception that anything that's sustainable can't be pretty. And I think that we're seeing a lot more of examples of that's just not true. You can pretty much do almost anything you would do with a non-sustainable product that you can with a sustainable product. So, you know, some of the other things are a single, dual, or triple airless bottles that are great if you have multiple products or solutions that you can keep in one container. So it's, you know, less containers as a whole, less material, less shipping. So, you know, again, going down that sustainability line of check boxes there. You know, this is, I think this is a great thing. This is relatively new, but, you know, I think it's becoming more popular, is this dual pump where you are able to put two products in one. Again, like I was just saying, it eliminates the need for two pumps and will reduce material. As I touched on before, the monomaterial is a huge thing, I think, in making it easy for people to recycle. You know, and it's a tough thing because, you know, I think people genuinely do try to do the right thing, and they just may not be educated enough or have the patience to have to take apart a product or a package to separate into the, you know, different bins that it needs to go into. So again, I think this goes much further than anybody really realizes of becoming a more sustainable planet. It's just making it easier for people to do. Here's some other airless pumps that are metal free. Or I'm sorry, these are just pumps that are metal free. So there's no spring in there. Another, you know, monomaterial type product that is simple, easy, can be, you know, you can dress it up, you can keep it kind of bare like this, and, you know, so it can cover a large range of product types, or, you know, from a luxury level down to an everyday level. Another thing that I'm seeing a lot more of lately, and I'm getting requests for these all the time, are tins. You know, basically, you know, single source, or, you know, again, monomaterial tins. They're recyclable. You can make them look very nice. They're very easy to decorate. They can come in different shapes, sizes, so they can, you know, they can solve a lot of your packaging issues or needs for different products. So it's an interesting, because I don't think people really realize that as much, that how versatile these are, and how much, you know, how many different products you can actually use with them. Secondary packaging is really where I got my start in packaging, you know, knocking on doors in Brooklyn, selling brown boxes or trying to sell brown boxes. And I've moved on to, you know, a very wide range of materials that I work with now. You know, corrugated is, you know, obviously a very sustainable package, and there's so many different ways now that you can dress it up and make it look pretty and functional, and you know, having that unboxing experience that, you know, I think has always been around, but I think the pandemic made it such a larger part of, you know, companies, especially direct-to-consumer companies, because you can really make an experience out of it, and you can, you know, get your customers' brains to just remember that box. There was, I think, the people that really started this, and, you know, some of you may remember, some of you may not, but there was a company called FabFitFun that started this whole, really one of the pioneers in the direct-to-consumer market, but also definitely like the start of the unboxing experience. And they had these bright purples and blue boxes that you just couldn't forget. And, you know, I always say I can sometimes not remember my kid's name, but I remember this box 15 years later. So it's something that will stay in your mind. And then, you know, moving on to, you know, folding carton boxes, you know, SBS, you know, those are all very recyclable materials. And, you know, can lend to high end, and can also lend to more basic products as well. And then again, up in the corner is the clear packaging. That's a sample of one of the boxes that you can see has 100% PCR on there. And I think, again, going back to marketing it, I think it's okay, and I think it's important that you do market it that way. And, you know, even if it's just a little circle that says, you know, I was a plastic bottle, or, you know, whatever, it will help you as a company just from a marketing perspective. And I think it gets into the consumer's mind as well about being more conscious about these things. Printex is a company that I've known for a long time. Again, going back to that, I was a bottle, bringing logo, brings this, promotes sustainability and your product. Just one more on that. Secondary packaging, obviously is very important. And so there's a company that created this product called the Traymatic, and it wasn't made for cosmetics, but it has been used for there now, and it's been, you can make it in all different sizes. And what's really kind of weird about it is that it was not made to be a sustainable product. It was really just made for ease. And basically what it is, when you go into stores and you see products on the shelves that are in these trays, typically those trays will go into another full RSC box or corrugated box that's shipped to the store. It's taken out and then put on the shelf. What this does, it eliminates that shipper and just puts a hood on this that's attached by a tear strip. So when it gets to the store, all you have to do is pull the tear strip, take the hood off, and put it on the shelf. So there's a lot of benefits to this. One, it's a less material. It'll eliminate people from pack out. Will take less energy. It's lighter and easier to ship. So there's this total cost savings in it. So, while that's something I think it's very important to keep in mind also, is that while there's some of these products may be more expensive, you need to really look at this as a total cost perspective. So, whether it's going solar or, the initial investment may be expensive, but it's going to save you money at the, in the long term. And same thing with packaging, eliminating pieces like this. It's these little things that kind of add up to create a much more sustainable environment and manufacturing process. There's a couple more pictures of those. And they come in, there's a lot of different solutions to doing this to make it more sustainable. And then I came across this company probably about a year ago, and I've had a lot of conversations with them, and I find this product just incredibly interesting. And, while not specifically for cosmetics, it can certainly be used for that. These things are, called the Maju Shelf. And basically what you can see there is there's a tray, and then there's four kind of poles on the sides of them. The poles are 100% PCR. The trays are 100% recyclable, and I think recycled material as well. And what's interesting about these is that they can come in a lot of different sizes and different shapes, and they kind of fit together like Legos. So you can make like interesting shapes, and I think it's great for a specific store that is one branded store where you could have a big display area of a lot of different cosmetics and have different shapes of these displays. It's a really interesting product that's really fully sustainable. And being a corrugated guy, this is probably boxes are boxes, not too much to get too excited about, but I really think this is probably the biggest development in corrugated packaging in decades. It's called curved, it's archwise, but it's basically curved corrugated. And as you can see, it's recycled, biodegradable, lighter, more efficient. And it does exactly what it says. It can literally curve around cans and bottles. So you're eliminating all that extra material that gets lost in the corners. And from a promotional standpoint, you can make a lot of different shapes out of it, and make your product really kind of stand out on the shelf, which everybody wants to do. Going back in that vein, going back to clear packaging for a second, Princeton Review did a study a few years back where they put the same product in a clear package and a paper package, and they put them next to each other on the shelves. And it was some absurd stat of like, I think consumers were 500% more likely to buy the clear package than the paper package. I think there's two reasons for that. One, I think customers or consumers like to see their product, but it's also the way that the art pops off the plastic. Is just a whole different look. They could actually track their eyes, and it just kept going back to the clear packaging. So in that same vein, something like this, where you go in a store and you see 15 the same square or rectangle boxes on the shelf, and yours product is in a round one, where are your eyes going to go? So, just really kind of cool and fully sustainable, new ideas and concepts that are coming out. Some more of the curved corrugated products. You can do gift boxes with them. You can, the Valentine Day box is very interesting. And you could put inserts in there for cosmetics as well. If you look at these cases up there on the top, that, you could really design this around a cosmetic product, which I think, would be really interesting, and, something that's just, nobody has. So something to really set your product apart. And then this one is, it's called the Ready Box. And, again, you can use this for a lot of different products. Garnier did this. It comes, just back up for a second, it comes into the store like that. You just take off the top and pull it up, and there's your display. So very easy, less materials, less shelves, lighter, and, less people at pack out. Just some other, interesting designs that this company has been doing over the last couple of years across a lot of different industries. And then lastly, one of the things that people really, there's been discussion about, well, if you print too much or you foil and you do this or that to the package, you can't really recycle it. That's just not a true statement. And, don't be afraid to dress up your packaging and give it that look that you need, and worry about, you don't have to worry about it being sustainable unless it's not sustainable to begin with. But the printing and the add-ons are not going to impede that. So, that is, from my experience and what I do on a daily basis, talking about and kind of teaching and learning and developing new packaging in sustainable manners. And, I hope this was helpful to you, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And also, here's my information. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. You're on mute.
So there are some questions by Faria in the messages. She asks, how do you sustain sustainability as a foundation in your business to prepare for when you're scaling up?
I think it's easier the larger that you get, because especially when it comes to packaging, I think that you're able to afford more different types of packaging, because obviously the price comes down. You're going to start meeting those minimal, those MOQs in terms of, what you have to order. So you can really take advantage of a wider array of sustainable products that are out there.
So she's also asking, how do we offset the green premium as startups that want to build a circular economy but have limited resources?
I'd say take it one step at a time. And, it can start with a recycled pump, or even something that's just fully recyclable. There's no, again, like I said in the beginning, there's really no magic way of starting this. Take an issue or take a aspect of what you're doing and figure out what part of that is most important to you to be sustainable. We would all like to be 100% sustainable, but as you're starting out, 9 times out of 10, it's not possible, and you cannot beat yourself up about it. You have to pick your battles and do what you can. And as your brand grows, I say this a lot, that as your brand grows, you are able to potentially change your packaging to be more fully sustainable. And it's almost like relaunching your brand, so it could actually attract more people to it than that. And you market it, just market what you're doing. Everything that you market, people will appreciate.
What are some options you'd suggest for someone who's just starting?
I mean, obviously it depends on the product, but, I think paper tubes are a very affordable, package. I think, you can get, there's like those monomaterial type pumps that aren't so bad. I have to check to see what the MOQs on those are. But again, this obviously depends on the product. Tins are really not a bad option either. They're more affordable. And the other thing is just trying to stay with paper as much as you can. I mean, as a whole, I mean, again, like the clear packaging, typically that's going to be for larger volumes, I think, in terms of being affordable. But that paper is always a safe way to go. So
What are your thoughts on biodegradable plastics?
I think that, I mean, listen, I think it's a good thing. Sometimes I worry about the integrity of products like this. It's, how do they hold up, during shipping? How do they hold up in terms of longer time frames? But I think the verdict is probably still a little bit out on these. It's a little bit newer of a technology. And I think it's going to be an expensive proposition to start with. I could be wrong. I do not do a lot in that area, but that's my understanding of it.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Not seeing anything. Okay, I have a question for you. So you're talking about how packaging is a brand's first line of marketing. How do brands test the effectiveness of their packaging?
Effectiveness from a marketing perspective. I think I don't know if there's necessarily a measurable tool to do that. It's all about making it stand out on the shelf. Okay. The more eyes that go to it, the more people that are going to pick it up, and the other thing to keep in mind though, is like, yeah, that's great that draws people to you. But, if the product doesn't hold up, then they're not coming back. So, no matter what, it has to be a good product. But to separate yourself, yeah, I think you can do a lot of that by, different printing, different shapes. And, I do think that, as more eyes go to it, more people are going to buy it.
Ravisha asks, how do you see circularity in packaging?
Well, I think that's the $1 million question, but, the circular nature of sustainability, I find it to be a very difficult concept, because you're relying on a lot of people to do the right things at the right time, right? So you have the manufacturer that's looking to have a sustainable product and doing a great idea of the circular economy, but then it's up to the consumer, and I think that's where a lot of things fall apart. And while there are certainly conscious people out there that are, whether it's a reusable jar or refillable jar or refillable product, are they going through the effort to really do that? How do we make it easy for them to do that at the same time? And even if it's not a refillable thing, if it's, are they going to take the time to make sure that it gets into the right bin or gets into the right, area for it to become circular? So in theory, I think it's a great concept. I am a little cynical about, having too many links in the chain that have to do the right thing, so, but again, whoever does it, it's better than not doing it, I would say. I don't know that it's going to be something that's going to be this huge movement. I find people not to be that dependable. I don't mean to be a cynic, but
Ravisha is following up. Thank you for your point, but have you encountered give back the packages like some cosmetic companies are trying to do? So the question is about incentivizing and tracking.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And that is certainly a way to increase that circularity. I would agree 100%. I think that what does that look like, in terms of, what companies are able to do that, as a startup. Are you able to do that? I don't know. I don't know how people are funded. I think it's a good thing for large companies. But it is a very good incentive to, especially, it still goes back to the fact that, how good is your product? Because they're only going to come back if the product's good. Otherwise, they're just going to throw it in the trash, right? So if you have loyal customers that are going to keep coming back, then it's a fantastic idea.
Are there any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand or just go off of mic. All right, it seems like the audience is satisfied. Brad, thank you so much for doing this presentation. We really appreciate it.
Anytime. Feel free to reach out at any time.
Excellent. And thank you to everyone for attending and participating. And I hope to see you at our presentation next month, which is about trends that are emerging in color and skincare. All right. Have a nice day.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.